Hello, how's everybody? I wanted to go ahead and do this next video on a toothpaste recipe that I've been using for a few years. I noticed I've had skin issues for quite a few years, and one of the things that I noticed is when I use commercial toothpaste, it doesn't really matter what kind it is, unless it's something that's pretty much void of all, additives, flavors, those type of things, that I would get even more breakouts than normal, especially like in my chin area, it would just break out so much worse. So one of the things that I use is just a toothpaste that I make myself. And most of you probably know, I mean, you can use lots of things to brush your teeth. It does not need to be elaborate. You can just use some plain baking soda. There's lots of tooth powders out there if you want to buy things. I like this. I always felt like plain baking soda was just a little bit harsh for me personally. Some people like it. So I like this one because it has some coconut oil in it. I feel like it's giving me some moisture. At the same time, you can add flavorings. But once again, it's one of the simplest things. It's like 4 ingredients. So this recipe, I have all my ingredients weighed out here. So this recipe goes by milliliters, but milliliters by weight. So, I have a gram milliliter scale that I use. So 30 milliliters of baking soda. And as I show the ingredients, just go ahead and dump them right into my bowl. And I upped the baking soda in this recipe just because there was a lot of extra coconut oil and I wanted it to be a little bit meatier. So you could always play around with it however you like as well, of course. So it's 30 to 30, so it's also 30 milliliters of coconut oil. And that is by weight as well. And like we talked about before, I use the organic cold pressed coconut oil, but it does not need to be expensive, right? Doing this stuff at home definitely can be expensive, but it does not need to be. So I add those two together, and then it is your choice of essential oils. Obviously, peppermint is going to kind of be a go-to. So this recipe uses 20 drops of peppermint essential oil, and then, I had to count real quick. Those drops were coming really quickly. This recipe uses 20 drops of peppermint essential oil, uses 10 drops of myrrh essential oil, which I don't have, but myrrh is known to be really good for your mouth, your oral health. And then also thyme essential oil, which I'll add that in a second. And then that's literally it. And you'll just stir. Just go ahead and add my other oil. And you'll just literally stir, incorporate your baking soda and your oils together, and then this just makes about 1 small jar's worth, which probably still lasts me, I'd say probably about a month, because you don't need much. It goes onto your toothbrush relatively dry, and then, I wet it. Generally what I do, so it fits in about this size jar. Generally what I do when I make this recipe is I'll put it in the fridge, especially if it's warm out. I'll put it in the fridge for a little while, just to get it to come together. And then once it's solidified, as long as it's not too warm out, there we go. As you can see, but it's pretty full. As long as it's not too warm out, it will stay relatively solid. And then you can just scrape a little bit out on your toothbrush. And if you're making this for a family or different people that live together, then, it might seem obvious, it might not seem obvious, but you just want to make a separate jar for each person. We all have our own bacteria that are inherent to us, that are beneficial, good for us. We don't necessarily, want to all be sticking our toothbrush into the same jar. So that's it. Easiest toothpaste in the world, unless you just want to use straight baking soda, which is totally fine too. But I really enjoy this one. Okay, thanks.